The Micah Parsons, Trey Hendrickson, and of course, if you're a Packers fan, you are interested at least somewhat, not maybe all the way, but somewhat, in what's going to happen there. So let's start there with our friend Adam Schefter. Good morning, Adam. What is the latest on the drama with those two guys?
Micah and Trey?
Yes, sir.
Well, they're both kind of stuck. And Micah, the Cowboys and Micah Parsons haven't had any contract discussions in months. Now, I would think, just naturally, that if my star player came out early in training camp and issued a lengthy public trade request and talked about all the things that he was disappointed in, if I'm running a team, he'd be in my office the next day and I wanted to keep him, and we'd be talking about what bothered him, and we'd be figuring out a way to overcome that contract. I want you to think about that for a moment. Their star player came out and said, I want to be traded, and they have not had a single contract discussion since that's come up. What does that tell you?
Well, it's Jerry Jones. You have to take that into consideration.
But you also have to
I wouldn't feel good, Adam, you know?
No, and that's why I said yesterday, to me, now, again, I want to preface this by saying I recognize that their regular season opens 2 weeks from tomorrow at Philadelphia. And things happen. At the last moment, players come together, they make deals at the deadline. It happened last year with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. This doesn't feel that way. It just doesn't. Okay? So could they come together this weekend and strike a deal? Of course. Does it feel like it's happening? No. And that's why it feels to me like the two sides at some point, are headed for a divorce.
Just what does Dallas think their ceiling is this year? Do they think it's the Super Bowl? Because the only way I see them doing this is if they don't feel they're close to winning a Super Bowl and they need to reboot and upgrade some other positions with the first round picks they'd get for them. That's the only thing I can think of. Because, Adam, I think Parsons is more deserving of an extension than Hendrickson, just because of his age. And I hope they get rid of him.
Chewy.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to say this to you. Micah Parsons, I believe, is 26 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you break down the pass rush numbers over the last 4 years, he's had more pressures and a higher win rate than Myles Garrett. Okay? Yeah. And he's younger. If we look at it, there are two players in NFL history who have had at least 12 or more sacks in each of their first 4 seasons, 12 or more in each of their first 4 years. In history of the NFL, one was Reggie White and the other was Micah Parsons.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I just think that this has gotten a little personal. Jerry and Micah were talking. Jerry thought they had a deal. Okay? Jerry thought they had a deal. Micah never saw a contract, never signed a paper, never whatever. Jerry felt like they shook on a deal, just like they shook on a deal when he bought the Cowboys for $150 million. Micah didn't feel that way. Micah's agent wasn't involved. Jerry insulted the agent. Micah said, we're not doing a deal without the agent. It went on from there. And we have had zero conversations. And by the way, Micah's seen pass rush deals go out to Max Crosby and Danielle Hunter and Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. So all these guys are signing huge deals while the Cowboys are not even talking to him. Not even talking to him.
Let me ask you this, Adam, because Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft are kind of the face of the owners in the NFL. Do you think this is more about Jerry Jones saying, I'm sick of these players holding out when they still have years on their contract because they thought they had this thing figured out in the last CBA with the fines where they're like, okay, they can't hold out anymore because they're going to be fined so much. You think it's more about that?
Yeah, because now they're holding in, right? Because we just saw Micah Parsons is at practice. He's going to meetings.
Same thing. Trey Hendrickson traveled with the Bengals to their game on Monday.
But do you think Jerry Jones is upset across the board with all McLaren and all these guys holding out while they still have years left on their contract?
Jerry Jones is a pioneer. Jerry Jones is a visionary. But Jerry Jones, no matter what, that's like trying to say, go stand at the ocean and stop the waves from coming in. Okay, the waves come in all the time. Last year, it was Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. The year before, it was Joe Burrow and Nick Bosa and everybody. Like, this happens every year.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is not going to stop players wanting new contracts who feel like they deserve to be paid. He can make his own stand, but this isn't about that. This isn't about that. This is about a negotiation with a player that has gone awry. It just is. Now, could they repair it? Of course. Of course they could. It doesn't sound like either one wants to. Okay? Micah has asked to be traded. The Cowboys have ignored him contractually. Could that change today?
Let me just get to this really quickly, because are they banking on Micah Parsons standing there on the sideline, and we're showing video of it right now on Get Up, of him just standing there watching the team play? Are they hoping that, like, he just gets to the point where he's like, bleep it, I want to play, I want to be out there with my guys, and I'm not going to get what I want? So, like, is that what it is? Because he's a competitor. Are they banking on his competitiveness taking over and
No.
sort of forcing him in his Cavs' hand?
No, they're banking on a contract being a contract. You want to get paid. You want to go out and play like the best. You want to do all that stuff. I think that's what they're banking on. But look, Jerry Jones also said a couple of weeks ago he didn't know if Micah Parsons would be playing in the regular season opener at Philadelphia, which is, again, 2 weeks from tomorrow. Again, Micah Parsons hasn't practiced yet all summer. Now, Jamar Chase didn't practice last year, and it didn't stop him from winning a Triple Crown. Okay, so, there are certain players that are gifted and freaks and can go out and, perform better than Chewy ever could. And I love you, Chewy. That's just the way it is. Okay?
It really is.
Low
So-
bar, clear.
so- But again, I'm just trying to say, look, let's open our eyes and look at what's going on. Look at what's been said.
Yeah.
Look at what's been done. Look at what hasn't been done. And just, there you go. There's your assessment of where it's at. It's not hard to figure out. Not some great reporting on my part.
Adam Schefter on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, brought to you by Tony Wendorf and Associates. Just like the moves made in the pros, Tony Wendorf and Associates, First Weber Real Estate Services, helps people make their own big moves every day. Make the move. Get in touch with Tony Wendorf and Associates. So I think of, with this relationship that we're talking about with the Cowboys and Micah Parsons, I think of what happened with the Packers and Davante Adams. Now, the difference is when Davante asked for the contract and the Packers basically said no, he played out that final year. They franchise tagged him, then tried to offer him a bunch of money, and he said, too late, I want out of here. Is this relationship between the Cowboys and Micah Parsons, it can probably still be repaired if they offer him the contract now, right? If they offer him to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, that's about the only thing that's
offered
gonna
him
repair
that.
the
They
relationship.
offered him that. They offered him that. Again, let's just follow the facts.
Mhm.
Again, I also know that when push comes to shove, it's possible that Micah Parsons could say, you know what? It's not a great business decision to play this season without that contract. And the Cowboys, for some reason, come to him, which they haven't even done, and say, well, we'll give you that offer that we talked about in March. I mean, that's possible too. And could they repair it before? Yeah, they could. Of course they could. Everything changes sometimes. Everything could change. It doesn't sound like it's going to change today. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I could be proven wrong.
Adam, Green Bay plays Detroit first game of the year. What are you hearing about Aiden Hutchinson? Is he back to where you think he was before the injury last year, or is there still some lingering effects? Because Green Bay has questions at left tackle. They don't know if they're going to start Rasheed Walker or second-year player who didn't really play a lot last year, Jordan Morgan. What are you hearing about him? Is he his old self?
I'm glad you asked. I sat with him for 30 minutes on Friday.
Perfect.
Seemed good to me. Seems like he's primed and all raring to go. Like he feels great. So, I mean, does that mean he's 100% back? I don't know. Maybe it'll take him a little bit to find his form, but I can tell you he'll be out there. I can tell you he feels great. I can tell you he'll be playing. And I can tell you he feels like he'll make an impact on the game.
Adam, we have our ESPN Milwaukee fantasy football draft this evening at Potawatomi Sportsbook
Oh,
at
boy.
the Annex. Looking forward to a lot of
Oh,
our
boy.
loyal listeners being out there and drafting their teams. Josh is going to be handling the drafting for Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. I know that you had John Hansen on your pod recently. Can you give our loyal listeners any tips, top prospects for fantasy football this year? What did he tell you?
That's a very broad question, Jen. I mean, in all honesty, last year, listen, with my podcast, what I love to do this year, I love fantasy football. And I'm very competitive with it. Last week I had Field Yates on, 40 minutes of fantasy conversation on my podcast. This week we've got John Hansen on from the Fantasy Guru, and next week I'm going to have the guys from Establish the Run, Adam Levitin and Evan Silva. So I want people to get as much fantasy information as possible. That's why I try to do my podcast. So, I mean, I could try to
And by people,
sum it
you
up
mean
for you.
right? Like, that's what really we're doing here, right? You're trying to get as many fantasy people on your show to tell you who you should pick for your team, right?
Yes, but again, I like to think that
It's
people
twofold.
care about their fantasy teams, right? Gabe, do you have a fantasy team?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Chewy, you got one?
Just in my own head.
Okay.
Whoever has
Me
the
too.
biggest
I've got a
name
great
is
fantasy
on
team in my
Chewy's
head.
Fantasy team.
So what's more important to you, Adam? The one and done league that you're in during the golf season, or your fantasy football teams?
I will say this, Gabe. When it comes to anything like that, I'm all in. I'm an all in kind of guy. Okay, so I take my fantasy football very seriously. I take my one and done golf picks very seriously. John Hansen, I think he talked about waiting on quarterbacks later. We got a deep group of wide receivers. We got a lot of, you want to get a running back, at least one running back, maybe two early. There's a top tier tight ends. But in all honesty, like, just listen to him on the podcast. He was very good, and Field was very good last week. And if you listen to Field last week and John this week, I think you'll go into your drafts more informed tonight.
How many fantasy football teams do you have?
I have two.
When's the last time you won a fantasy football championship?
A few years ago, and I will make a confession. Well, I have one in our 14-team basketball league. 14 teams. I've won 4 championships in the last 8 years. A dynasty.
No. Yes.
I've never won in football. I've been in the finals 3 times, and I've never won.
Whew. Hey, maybe this is the year. This is the year for you, pal.
I think
got
every
faith.
year's the year, and it never is. So, and fantasy football, it requires, a little bit of luck, skill, everything. Like last year, Jeff Darlington won our league. There was a week where he didn't set his lineup. Okay, there's as much chance of me. There's as much chance of me not setting my lineup as there is me not paying taxes. Okay, like it's not happening. Okay, like Jeff Darlington, whatever. I forgot to set my lineup. Like I forget to set I live my lineup. Like it would never happen.
Speaking of fantasy, I can't remember if I dreamed this or I read it, but did you see that?
Wait, reading something is an option? I'm going to guess dreamed.
Okay.
Dreamt.
The loser of a fantasy football league had to join a branch of the military. That is crazy.
The person who finished last, that was one of the punishments that made its rounds
now,
recently.
Adam, the station fantasy football, the loser, which Jen had to do because she lost one year, she had to take the ACT.
Yep.
Last year, they had to spend 24 hours. Was it 24 hours?
In a McDonald's?
At a Waffle House.
Well, yeah, George Webb. It ended up being Webb's.
Oh, okay.
24-hour diner.
Do you guys have a loser that has to do something weird, Adam?
No, we've never done that. Never done that. I think it's humiliating enough that if you finish last in a league and a company like that people. But it's honestly it's 16 teams. It's so hard. Like 16. Like if you draft a running back and your running back gets hurt and you go to the waiver wire, like your options to pick up are like Dorsey Levens and and Patrick Taylor. Like those are the 2 options that if you lose a running back to injury. So that's what happens in a 16-team league. It's just brutal.
Yeah, it's tough.
Hey guys, it's Jen from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Thanks for watching our clip. I'm sure it was super informative and educational. I'm just kidding. I love those knuckleheads. And we do it live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get informed anytime we drop new content.